Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's live stream. Today, geez, it's been an incredible day already today because over the last 3 or 4 days, even in the last couple of hours, peak sporting bodies have started to release their back to sport plans at club level. So we're seeing, Basketball Australia have released today. They're back to club level, back return to basketball as they call it, as you can see on the screen. AFL last couple of days, netball, rugby league, paddle, lots of karting Australia, lots of peak sporting bodies. And what that's meant, for the first time, clubs are truly realizing the monumental change that is going to be required to if they choose to restart in the current environment. And so what we're seeing now is we're the level of inquiry coming to sports community is very similar to what it was when the shutdown first started, as there's clubs are trying to work out, what does this all mean to me? But more importantly, that what they are grappling with at the moment is we can't possibly operate in this scenario. So, for instance, a netball association that might play games from 8 a.m. in the morning to midday on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 courts, for instance, is going, well, they might roll through 1,000, 2,000 people over the course of that day, and they're going, well, we just can't operate. And that's the point. We can't operate at the moment the way that we used to. And that's the point. And clubs got to get their mind around that and be comfortable that there's a new normal that they either opt into or they don't opt into. So there's no, even though peak sporting bodies are putting guidelines and processes and methodology in place so clubs can reopen and start to offer some sort of physical activities for their members, even if it's just training. Clubs need to just take a deep breath and go, well, hold on, do we even want to at this stage? Are we even able to? Now, the answer is, are we able to provide some? Well, most of the time the answer is going to be it's going to be yes, or will be yes soon, whether it's indoor stadiums, etc. But it's clearly going to be different than it was. So that's one of the things that we're now realizing, how different it's going to be. And so that's going to be, and the other thing that we're realizing is that there's going to be rapid change, both in the easing of restrictions, but as a community, if we get it wrong, in the pulling back of restrictions as well. And so clubs, before they need to think about how do we do what we used to do, just need to take the position of saying, right, our first and primary responsibility is the health and safety of our all the people involved. And the thing that we want to avoid more than anything else is the words club cluster, sporting club cluster. And when we look around the country at where clusters are forming, then think about our way our clubs normally operate. They're prime scenarios for that, right? So that's the given. So what does it mean? It means we need to follow absolutely the guidelines. Now, the other feedback that's been coming through over the last week or so as guidelines have been coming out is, well, we can dodge them a little bit. We can manipulate them. We can, that's what that means, but we can apply it differently, or we interpret it differently that allows more people on. And absolutely, the guidelines are written in a way that allows them to be adjusted according to club by club, environment. But don't try and trick them. Don't try and work around them so you can go from 0 to 100 people at any one time on your venue. If you think you can trick your guidelines, don't do that. Go slowly through it in a way that keeps us all safe and ensures that we're not going to become a COVID cluster at our sports club. So yes, sport's going to be different. Everyone's going to work out. So the committees need to work out, what does that difference actually mean? At the moment, most of it's just training. Then it'll be, non-contact, whatever it means for your sport. Or some sports have been able to go all the way through. So horse racing, obviously, a lot of motorsports, particularly in South Australia, have gone all the way through, or could have gone all the way through. So what does it mean for your sport? So then the next really, really important step is then communicating to your members, because if you as a committee are shocked at the changes that are going to be made or required to be made before you can open, and they're dramatic and significant. So, for instance, just listening to the CEO of Basketball Australia on this morning's news, for instance, courts side by side may not be in some places be able to be used concurrently. That's a significant change. So if committees are significantly shocked by the level of change that's required, then our members are going to be more shocked. Right? They're going to be more shocked. And remember, our members have been locked up and frustrated, and some of us have been homeschooling. So they might not have the patience that we normally did or do. So as we're going back into sport, one of the key things to remember is make sure we tell the members and the participants exactly what the new normal looks like before they get here. Tell them there might be you might not be able to park in every single car park. You might have to park up the street, because we might block off every second car park, for instance, to ensure there's social distancing. There might be ins and outs. We might if you have any of the symptoms, we won't let you on site. So if you're coughing or whatever, we will send you home. So set that expectation at the start. Make sure people have a very clear understanding of what they're coming into, because it's when people's reality and expectations are different that conflict comes about. So people are expecting one thing, they get there's another thing, and that's where conflict happens. Let's make the expectations and the reality the same, takes conflict away, or certainly gives us the opportunity to minimize it. Now, in lots of states and territories, there's the requirement for a COVID officer. Some sports are making, if the state hasn't made it mandatory, some sports are making it mandatory, some sports are not making it mandatory. So in Victoria netball, for instance, the concept of a COVID officer is not a mandatory requirement. But if the sport is saying, if there is a requirement to create this position called a COVID officer, and they will give you the clear definition of what the role of that person is and the function and how that sort of thing. Just because it's titled officer, singular, does not mean, and it should not mean, that responsibility gets placed onto one person. So if we need to be going through and getting COVID training, whatever that is for your particular sport, then don't limit it to one person. Limit it, group it to get a group, get 5, 6, 7, get 10. So then you can have COVID officers working as a group to ensure your club is safe. And it does not mean at all that those necessarily need to be committee members. So look at it. Think about how you're going to be scheduling your sport, and think about who's going to be there at those particular times anyway, right? And so then we can get people from those groups that they're going to be there at those particular times to undertake the training, so it doesn't create more responsibility, more work on that small committee group. Of course, the committee should get as much information as they can, but practically that operational application does not need to be just committee members. So that's really, really, really important as well. Simone, thank you very much for your comment. Fantastic information every day. Really enjoy tuning in. Look, we really enjoy delivering it. Effectively, I wake up every morning and go, well, what are the questions that we've got, or what are the questions that I've got? And we go and either get guests to talk about them, or we kind of share them with you. So I know that no one wants to listen to me rabbit on all week. So what we've got really excited about the guests we've got coming up over the next 10, 12 days. So we've got, there's a number of clubs. So a karting club in South Australia, Kart Club South Australia. They've been operating for the last 4 weeks, quite legitimately, and got some great experiences. So they'll come online. Got a golf club, the Dunes Golf Club, come online tomorrow and talk to us about their experiences. We've got, who else have we got? We've got a soccer club coming on next week and telling a very, very large soccer club. So 400 members and going, well, what does this new restrictions mean to us? And a massive group, membership group. Communication is going to be really important, as we've talked about that. So we'll look to get people on from the communications background and communications platform to talk about how to make it easier to communicate to the members what the expectations are going to be, so that we reduce that side of it. Of course, we've got Esport Friday, and Cameron's going to explain just another facet of Esport Friday, and then we'll start to have some guests from the esport world joining us on Esport Friday. So really excited about that. Just before we go, we'll just close the loop back to what we were talking about, how our sports are going to be looking very different in the short to medium term. And what we're now realizing is so are our people. A lot of discussion last week about mental health and well-being, and suicide rates potentially are going to have the potential to increase. The National Council talked about got presented the National Mental Health Framework, and some officers, chief medical officer level and deputy chief medical officer level positions to oversee mental health in Australia from the COVID scenario. And so that makes it really, really understand that sport's going to be different when we come back, but so are our people. And so that's why we're really pleased to be able to present in partnership with Vic Health and the Love Me, Love You Foundation, free mental health webinars today. Today's the last day they'll be running, with Lance Picioane, how he'll take us through, ex-AFL footballer. He'll take us through his journey and how it applies into community sports clubs, the level of support, how can we be looking out for the symptoms, and how can we be having initial discussions, and what support is available for our people. So if you, we would love it if you would share the link. The link to the registration page is in the notes or in the comments to this live stream. It's such an important session. I hosted 2 of the webinars on Monday, and they were incredibly powerful and compelled me to go home and have some interesting discussions with my wife and my family. So I really encourage you. I know you've got lots of choices for webinars, and if you only do one webinar, I really encourage you to ensure that someone from your club clicks on the link, sportscommunity.com.au, click on the banner that's at the top of the page, go and register for one of the 2 sessions, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Melbourne time, and we'd love to see you in the session. So until tomorrow, where we will get Tim Bateman, one of the most experienced sports golf club managers in the country, to talk about how their club reopened and some of the tricks and things that he's learned in the last week, and then we move on to Esport Friday. So thank you, Simone. Thank you very much for your comment. It's really cool. Until tomorrow, I thank everyone for being part of our sports community.